Today I'm speaking with Füsun Wehrmann. She built and led engineering teams, so product and tech organizations across companies like Wayfair, Microsoft, and also most recently as CTPO in InPost Group. It's Europe's leading out-of-home delivery platform. And her career spans e-commerce, logistics, cloud migration, and a lot of AI and M&A topic. But what makes her perspective sharp? I think she's seen the real breaking points from legacy tech to organizations which are really bloated, from culture clashes, and then streamlining it and leading through it. Hey, Füsun, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Mark. Great to be here.
Let's tackle the first topic. So, I would like to know the main challenge when you look back into the projects you were leading in the past few years, the experience you have. What do you see was the challenge, the main challenge you always were confronted with?
So, when it comes to challenges in the tech organizations, there is always a perceived problem in technology. That could be the monolith, that could be scaling, that could be data or security. And these perceptions change from stakeholders to stakeholders. So, everybody agrees that there is something to fix, there is something that is a big problem. But if you ask different stakeholders, you will get several different answers as to the beliefs in how to solve it. And normally there is one or two or, just a few heroes. Usually it's one person is pulled in to this situation and given the task of heroically fixing the situation. So that's usually the top problem, and then you need to untangle the situation and come up with your perception of what you think is wrong or what you think that needs to change, and then agreeing on the plan. But this first part and the understanding perception of the problem and how to solve it is never one. And in my experience, even with the best stakeholder management tactics, you will never get to one agreed and shared perception of things.
Hey, but if I understand you right, so you are diving deeper and you're trying to fix or to find the real problem behind the obvious one, which is not that one that you want to solve. Did I understand this right?
Correct. It could be indeed some limitations of the technology you are using, or it could be the speed of change that's going on in your organization through M&A or through going through COVID and getting more and more traffic every day, nonstop for years, or you have some issues in your talent or in your organizational culture, or a combination of these things. What you see is the manifestation of this problem as a whole at the end, and each stakeholder looks at the outcomes or KPIs, if you will, that matters for them. So it's really like this elephant and the blind people touching different parts of the elephant. So everybody will tell you which part of the elephant they feel and express it to you about the problem they are conceiving.
How do you have some hacks? I mean, how do you fix this? I heard silos, like you talk about team silos, maybe data technology silos. How do you fix that?
So, a couple of hacks I have built over the course of the years. Two things. First, focus on what matters. Don't try to fix everything. Don't try to explain yourself to everyone, but know what's your core problem is, what's your core group is. And this problem and group can change over the course of the transformation. So it's different at the beginning than at the end. That's number one. Number two, depending on the size of the problem and size of the organizations you've been dealing, and I had change in organizations of 50 people to over 700, 800 people, you need a team. You need a core change team you believe in, and everybody has their each other's bags, and you have to delegate parts of the transformation to the parts of the team and have a common manifest, if you will, or manifestation set of rules that connect you, because no real one person can come and fix an organization or business for that.
So you're talking about the human factor. Can you, when you look back in your project, can you determine like was it really the human factor or like the culture topic which lead to these challenges, or is it always a combination? Can you maybe elaborate on this one?
Yeah, this is an important topic, because especially in technology, if we are talking about technological issues and challenges For a CFO, it's the ROI. For an executive leader, it's maybe speed of delivery or quality of the products. And to connect it to culture and people is not accepted at all times, and it's not easy to relate. But at the end of the day, it's not so soft and squishy as it sounds. If you go into the depth of the problem, and today we are still not that much AI driven in our systems and how we build and maintain our systems, you will see different groups of people or different persons dedicate to huge areas, holding things together. So when these parts are not in harmony anymore with your growth, if you are still building and supporting software or generating software products the way you did 5 years ago, but your organization expanded in 5 more countries, or your volumes went up, your traffic went up 2 or 3x, there is always a challenge coming with that. What I'm trying to say is you need to dive deep and say, what is the challenge? What is the real problem that led to this problem at the first place? Let's take concrete examples, right? It's very easy to say tech team, is not focused on the business problems. They are doing stuff we don't understand, or our tech debt is too high. That's why we are not having the performance we are having. That could come from a senior software manager, software engineering manager. So these perceptions, these insights are all valuable and all valid to some extent. But at the end of the day, if it comes down to this person, that person, or this role not working, that's not what you're looking for. You need to find the ecosystem. You need to define the environment that makes everything related to each other. For example, you might have a very old monolithic system that is in the core of your business, and there's always a plan to refactor it, to migrate it, to put it somewhere else. Maybe you plan 2 years for that. But at the end of the day, the reality of things, the reality of your business maybe makes you maintain it over the course of 5 years, 6 years, making a small group of people responsible for something that's hard to maintain, right? So seeing how this changes the rest of the ecosystem is hard. But when something goes wrong, of course, there will be always reflections and critique going to that team. So I think, to summarize, especially in the organizations of 100, 200 people and more, and where there's legacy and some, 10 plus years technology history, there is always unknown parts of the ecosystem on every side. Technology teams, for example, would not always know what's the reason for them to create more tech debt. But if you think about it, if you don't create a certain product by this date, maybe you are losing competitive edge. On the other side, from the commercial side, it's hard to see why things are taking so long. It becomes personal very quickly, and becoming personal makes you lose even more details, because the details and the complexity of many things that need to be understood at the same time is too much for everyone. So concluding this view, I think the most important thing a change leader needs to do is going into this complexity and details, understanding as much as they can, and then creating messages, insights, pieces that make people understand for each stakeholder group. Saying what you're telling to the engineering team is different than what you're telling to the commercial team, maybe what you're telling to the CFO, because everybody, they need to understand from their side of view, although the core message could be the same thing. We gotta do the monolith, we gotta migrate to monolith, or we have to do this, we have to do that. There's cultural change needed. They need to understand from their point of view.
That's a really interesting one. Füsun, you were leading so many transformation projects, so many changes. And what I realized when I did change management is there's always a group of people who is actually jumping forward and say like, oh, wow, there is something coming. I can hold on the future being. But then there's the other group holding back on what was there. And so the gap gets really, really big. And now if we spill Gen AI on all these kind of projects which is currently happening, I mean, that's like a source for burnout, for people really being scared. Could you give an example how you tackle these moments when Gen AI comes to all these software projects? Have you got any experience or lessons learned to share?
Well, GenAI is a very fresh thing, especially in established corporates. Of course, everybody's chasing this goal because it's very promising. People hope to be saving resources, getting more innovation. Software engineers are very excited. They want to make sure their developer experience and code quality increases, and they stay relevant in the market. So when it comes to fear, we had this also in different waves of technological advancements in history, right? When we look at the past decade, First, it was cloud. I remember the times of data centers and sysadmins driving to the data center, and many of us were scared when cloud came around, right? And there was resistance using cloud. To be fair, some jobs did not extinguish, but the number of people we need to deal with data centers is significantly less than 10 years ago, 15 years ago. In the same way, if you look at now for software engineering, Gen AI, on many grounds, it's great and it's promising, and we hear Google and Microsoft generating certain parts of their code, certain percentages with Gen AI. On the other hand, if you really use it and see how far you can go, there is still lots of challenges on the way. So how do you make headcount decisions then? Are you not hiring junior developers anymore, or do you go for different profiles? These answers are not there. And as leaders, this ambiguity and this opportunity presents itself to the CTOs, to the CEOs. We have to chase it. We have to find answers, and we have to try out, make mistakes. The question is, what is the impact on our people? As you say, mostly senior developers, people who feel more grounded in their profession and their experience, are more excited. And very, very junior folks I see as well, Gen Z, Gen A, they are very native in their interaction with AI. They are more eager to navigate this space. The group in between mostly has more psychological safety issues of fear of being sidelined and fear of not understanding, or still having responsibility of many things. For example, architectural issues cannot be all solved by Gen AI today. Or if you have a PHP monolith running somewhere, it's still very difficult to untangle that monolith and go into a microservices space through Gen AI. But then you have this dilemma on one place, on one side, you have to deal with these things and bring your expertise in. On the other side, there's a whole other new world which is presenting itself as a looming danger for your career. I have just limited experience with what it can do. We had a situation with code written in a different programming language and in commented and created in a different language as well. It wasn't English speaking individuals. They were speaking French, so variable names and the whole ecosystem. If you do not speak French and if you do not know that programming language, it was pretty hard. So that system was difficult, and the implication for me was I wasn't able to create distributed teams, a diverse team to deal with that code and put the best people on it to make the best progress, right? So we used Gen AI for that, and I also realized in the first months the progress was slower than I expected. And it turned out maybe it also had to do with people's own worries and concerns about what it would mean for them and for their autonomy, for their ownership, for their status in the company. So at the end, we had to do several iterations, and not of technical nature, but making sure people have less fears and we create more trust and psychological safety. At the end of the day, it helped a lot. We were able to understand the code and translate and convert as much as we can start building the distributed teams.
Hey, Füsun, I have one more question. Like one thing you would tell your past self, what would that be after all the learnings you had in these different industries and big corporations?
This is a difficult one. I think if I could go back like 15 years ago or 20 years ago, I think 15 is a good amount, where I started dealing with so much change and taking risks, taking decisions. I would tell myself, do not think you can do everything right. It's the change ecosystem, the change systems are very chaotic, very dynamic. It's not deterministic. Tech is deterministic to some extent. But because it's a lot about moving parts and interference from outside, you can never do everything right. And change is not about perfection. It's doing things, taking informed decisions, correcting your path, and moving forward with a team. There will always be ups and downs. There will always be mistakes. Maybe not all changes will end up with what you think, but the long-term experience and how you react to failure and success will define who you are and what the team comes up with.
Great last words. So I'm hearing also, beside that, it's important to like do bold decisions, risk failure. You also said legacy systems are easier than legacy mindsets. You really beat on culture, and culture eats architecture for breakfast is one line which comes in mind. But also scaling a distributed team needs this really important human part. It's not about the tech stack alone, and that you also opening the stage for GenAI as a new leadership terrain. And I think this is really interesting also to see that there is a always ongoing transformation. So I'm hearing you that there is not the first transformation, it won't be the last. But yeah, if transformation fail, we sometimes ignore that there is a human operating system which is kind of underlying to make it possible. Hey, Füsun, I thank you so much. Would you like to add some take-home message first, or second, how can people find you to spark this conversation and to continue?
Thank you, Mark. I think one last comment I would like to make here is return to office and introduction of AI into our software development environments. As you remember, we saw a strong push to returning to office from big corporates, and all the others, many others followed. And now we see introduction of AI agents, AI employees into our worlds, which are not coming to the office. So we have to come up with ways of being more effective and fair to the all actors in our ecosystem. I really would like the CEOs and CTOs to reflect on that before they draw very hard lines to cross. And talent market is a dynamic market. Right now, it's an employer's market, but it will be an employee's market back again. So I really would like to leave this message to all the leaders out there. When we come to how to find me, right now I'm running my own advisory business. It's Scaling Solutions. I'm really easy to find in LinkedIn. So the best way would be to reach me out through my LinkedIn profile.
Hey, Füsun Wehrmann, thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Thanks, Mark.